Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video, and welcome back to Game of Thrones. Season 8 has just premiered. Winterfell just graced our screens, and the wait is finally over. The wait was long and full of terrors, but finally, we got the premiere. So a ton of stuff happened in this episode. Things that we wanted to happen, things that we didn't want to happen, and things that we didn't think were gonna happen yet. So let's talk about that, let's break that down, and finally, let's talk about some Game of Thrones. So first off, Dany, Jon, and all their forces ride into Winterfell, the king and queen on horseback. Sounds familiar, right? Yeah, it's basically season 1, episode 1. In the best possible ways though. The first few minutes are basically paying homage to the first episode. We get a kid running around climbing, trying to get through people, basically being an amalgamation of Bran and Arya from episode 1. In fact, Arya actually steps aside to let the kid get his view because she remembers how important that is. The music, so triumphant, powerful, and uplifting, is so reminiscent of what was in episode 1. It was a great way to start off this season, just like we started off the series. Something interesting though, before I move on to my next point, the path that Jon, Daenerys, and their whole entourage took when they went into Winterfell, going, through Wintertown, into Winterfell, the actual keep, and then into the crypts, seems like it might be what the Night King and his forces are gonna do in the war to come. That may not be important, but just hold on to that. So after that, we see Jon reunite with his family finally. He even gets to see Bran, who was in a coma when he last saw him. We even see Jon kiss Bran's forehead just like he did the last time he saw him. It was great, and I honestly was a little emotional. And then we get to see him reunite with Sansa, who isn't that big of a deal because they just saw each other, but it was emotional nonetheless, and we get to see that Sansa is side-eyeing Daenerys a little bit. I was a little annoyed at that tension, you don't need to pin the two strong female leads against each other, but I know that it has a purpose, and I'm hoping that'll be resolved pretty soon. And I mean, hey, give us a scene with Dany trying to be nice for once instead of just shouting Dracarys and burning someone alive. She called Sansa beautiful, like the North. But after Sansa, Jon got to reunite with Arya. This is the scene that I've been waiting for. It was perfect. They hugged each other just like the last time they saw each other. They showed off their swords to each other, and it just felt real. It felt wholesome. It was nice to see them smile. I haven't seen these characters smile in so long. I'm really hoping we get more Jon and Arya scenes. I like that dynamic. But moving on from the whole family reunification thing for a bit, Jon rode a dragon. He actually did it. We all thought he'd do it eventually, but they were just like, hey, you want that? Get it out of your system now. There's a war coming. That was nuts. The fact that Dany let him was nuts. I knew she liked him, but I didn't think she liked him. And I feel like the fact that she let Jon ride her dragon says more than that conversation in front of the waterfall ever could. By the way, that scene in front of the waterfall, very lighthearted. It was a nice change of pace. But it also mirrored Ygritte and Jon, who were my original OTP. I freaking loved them, and my heart was ripped out when Ygritte died. But the parallels between those two scenes were so obvious, with the whole we could spend our lives in here, and even saying the keep me warm thing. That was, I know that they were trying to do that, but even knowing that, I still was uncomfortable. I was like, oh, you're in love with your aunt. And I love Drogon staring Jon down. I'd like to think that he's not being just protective, but he knows he knows they're related, and he's staring at him like And that actually brings me on to my next topic. Jon found out about his heritage already. Hell yes, I was hoping so deeply that they wouldn't drag this out. I didn't want Jon to find out in the last episode, and then it's like, oh no, what do we do? Now I'm confused and fighting a war. I love that they were just nah, episode 1, hey, you're actually Aegon Targaryen. God, figure that shit out. Sam pulled the rug right out from under Jon. They were down in the crypts, and Jon thought this conversation was gonna be catching up, and it's like, hey dude, I haven't seen you in a while. I missed you, Sam. And he gave him a big hug even. But no, Sam's like, hey, you've been playing hide the pickle with your aunt. Your father isn't actually your father. He was actually lying, because who you thought was your actual aunt was actually your mom, and she actually got secretly married to the king's son. That was crazy and such a welcome surprise in my eyes. I love that they did it that way. I love that they got it out in the open, and I cannot wait to see how this is handled. I thought the scene itself too was just shot well. It seemed again like they were paying homage to season 1, episode 1. Just like how Ned and Robert were talking down in the crypts, Jon and Sam were talking in the crypts with the Starks of old just in the background. Ned was in that conversation just like he promised, and Lyanna was even there. It was such a beautiful way to tie them in without making it forced. And I'm so glad it came from Sam too. If this came from Bran with his weird kind of robot thing he has going on, the scene I feel like would have been lacking. The fact that Sam didn't want to do this, the fact that he was scared and kind of word vomited it out, like it made it so much better. And like, of course, you'd be so uncomfortable telling your friend that. That's his best friend. Like, he doesn't want to give him bad news like that. Just A+ scene. I loved it. I loved it. I love that it just happened off the bat, and I love how it happened. But anyway, moving on from the crypts of Winterfell, the dead Starks, let's talk about other dead people. Specifically, one wall walker, a walker on the wall. The kid with the stabby and then the spiral. So the walkers are continuing to leave their messages with dead body parts. Unfortunately, it is the Lord of Umber, who I believe we just saw earlier in the episode. That stung. He's young. It's a little uncalled for, but nobody's safe in this war, and we see that very clearly. The walkers are advancing, they're making good time, and they're leaving trails. They're leaving real clear, spirally on fire trails. Just in case the significance of that symbol slipped your mind, we actually saw something like it in season 1, episode 1. However, that symbol was a circle with a line through it. This one is a spiral with a center, right? We also see that same shape in season 3, episode 3, as well as season 6, episode 5. Oh, and also season 7, episode 4. That symbol's important for the White Walkers, but that symbol doesn't actually derive from them. It actually comes from their creators, the Children of the Forest. Why exactly the walkers have taken so much to graffiti, I can't say. What the significance of that symbol means, I don't know, but it's gonna mean something, and it's gonna mean something big. If you want to know anything else about those symbols, let me know in the comments, and I'll make sure to make a video on it before the next episode so we can go into it with a little more understanding. But that symbol reminds us of the true enemy, the White Walkers. We are fighting winter. Winter is here, and the war is here too. Before I end the video, I wanted to talk about my 3 favorite moments of the episode. I'm gonna be doing this for each episode, and I want to invite you to do it as well. So go into the comments, let me know what your 3 favorite moments of this episode were, and I'll let you know mine right now. So number 1, obviously, Jon on the dragon. Duh. I thought this scene shed a whole new light on dragon riding. When we see Daenerys do it, it's like, oh yeah, she looks so powerful and badass. And you look at it the same way you look at like Batman beat up a criminal. You're like, damn. But when I watched Jon, I was kind of scared for him. He was only holding on to 2 like horns, and then his feet, he couldn't even wrap around the neck. He just had him kind of planted. He was not properly secured. He was about to fall off and make a big puddle of red snow. One of my other favorite moments was the opening. I just thought it was so cool to pay homage to the first episode, and I felt like they did it well. I felt like I was so happy to be back in that world. It felt like that 2 years wait was worth it. It felt like the creators were like, hey man, here's this world that you loved being in. Here's a nice little introduction into it before we get started. I felt like they laid everything out very nicely. It made me so excited to see these characters again, and I can't wait for the rest of the season to come out. And my 3rd favorite moment from this episode had to be when Sam and Jon talked about Jon's lineage. I know you could probably tell from how much I gushed about it already, but I just thought they did such a great job. I feel like this is the only way it should have been said, and it was exactly what I wanted personally. It was great. I loved it, and I can't wait to see what Jon does. Is he just gonna go straight and tell Daenerys after this? Is he gonna hide it and ignore it? Is he gonna do research to like confirm it? What is Dany gonna do? Is she gonna like accept it because she's a Targaryen and like, hey, we inbreed all the time, it's fine? Or is she gonna like be pissed off at him? Or I want to know where this is gonna go. I think it'd be such an interesting conflict if Jon was disgusted by the idea of being with her now, but she still wanted to be with him. It would make the dynamic very interesting because Daenerys has been able to get whatever she wants. If Jon really just put up walls, that could mess with her, especially considering that in her culture, being related doesn't really mean anything. I'm really excited to see where this goes, especially because the other characters are wanting a proposal. They think that it would make everything run smoother and make the kingdoms fall under everybody nicely. Is that gonna be what happens? Will that feel satisfying if it does? Personally, I like them together, but like, do I like them together that much? I don't know. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below, as well as leaving me your top 3 favorite moments of the episode. And this is where I'm gonna leave this video. So that's it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. I am so excited for this season, and I'm so excited to make videos for you guys to experience it with you. If you're excited too, make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe while you're down there if you haven't already. We have a great little house here, and you will look great in it. I will see you guys very soon, next week in fact, with another Game of Thrones Season 8 video. But until then, go do some good stuff. Later.